Thank you very much again, Robbie, for your great talk on non-fungible tokens, which is a true game changer and is actually also the topic of our upcoming panel, for which I would like to welcome the panel moderator, Juergen Hoebarth, who is the founder of Tokenization Limited, together with all other panelists, Sebastien, Borget, who is the co-founder and COO of the Sandbox, Devin, Finzer, who is the co-founder and CEO of the OpenSea, Andreas Petersson, who is the managing director of Capacity Blockchain Solutions, and finally, Carolin Wend, who is the director of Mintbase. I'm looking forward to what you have to say, and welcome everyone.
Hi guys, and welcome very much to our panel, which is about non-fungible tokens and are they the true game changer? And I think we have a very, very interesting panel here. And I would just really jump deeply into it. And I would like to start with the Austrian on the panel because I know him very well. And he's like a person which is in this crypto space since a very long time. And I first came across him as a Bitcoin maximalist. So I'm wondering, so how did he end up in the game when it's all about non-fungible tokens and stuff like this? So Andreas, could you give us a little bit of an idea how your journey was?
Hi, thank you very much for the nice intro. Yeah, it is true that I've been a Bitcoin maximalist, but only because there was only Bitcoin at the time when I came into the scene. And we founded Bitcoin Austria as a non-profit organization in 2011. And I think it was actually the first non-profit organization worldwide that was founded in that space. Of course, everybody had to be a Bitcoin maximalist. There wasn't even Litecoin around back then. What I see is that the utility that blockchain technology can provide has really expanded massively, and it became more useful over time. If you look at, you can send money around, that is true, but in my opinion, money is not real. Money is just a construct that we use to model other things and to allocate resources efficiently. And that makes a lot of sense, but it itself, it's a relatively simple application. And of course, some people will disagree with me. That's why I looked out to go into more complex use cases of blockchain quite early on. And if you remember, maybe in Austria, there was a very active Bitcoin scene. And of course, I worked also at Mycelium, where we developed a great wallet that's being used by a lot of people. And then I was involved in a large number of blockchain projects. And that's naturally because the ecosystem is evolving in that direction, leads to the Ethereum ecosystem, which is right now the strongest ecosystem in the blockchain world. And that's why I'm enjoying the freedom of being able to develop this stuff.
So you see the topic around NFT as like an advanced level of blockchain?
No, it's definitely just an application of blockchain technology, yeah. And we will see a lot of more different applications. But I think right now NFTs are really the hot topic because it has so many great analogies from things in the real world that people are used to things in the digital world. And this is something that can be leveraged to build the mental models of the users correctly.
Yes, I very much enjoyed the panel before us where it was about, like security tokens. And as I'm personally involved in both worlds, it's a complete different topics you're discussing. And like in the NFT space, I think we have not so much barriers, which allows great things to do. And thank you very much, Andreas, for the introduction into that topic from your perspective. And, as we have heard before, that games are using NFTs very heavily. So and as I know Sebastien as well as person, and I know his history in the mobile gaming industry. So Sebastien, for you, what made it click for you? Because I think your background is not in a traditional cryptocurrency universe, like, for example, me or Andreas. You are more like coming from a perspective of from the gaming industry. So how did you came across NFT? How did you make the decision to make them a core component in your whole ecosystem as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So, My background as an entrepreneur, it's been almost 13 years now, and Sandbox is my fourth company. I started initially in the space of peer-to-peer with the BitTorrent technology, which is one of the very first application of decentralization. Then we moved into user-generated content, allowing users to upload photo, video, and music in the cloud and share them with their friends. And then in my third company, Pixel, we have since 2011, I've been doing mobile games, specifically games which turn the players into creators, into makers. So user-generated content where players can make their town or can make their own worlds and levels with the Sandbox franchise, which was born in 2012 indeed on mobile, but now is becoming this decentralized virtual gaming platform on the blockchain, on the Ethereum blockchain, where creators can make voxel model games, turn them into NFTs, monetize them on the blockchain. And essentially, the idea of using non-fungible tokens really match with the true digital ownership features that is attached to the technology behind. And when you match this NFT with user-generated content, it really makes sense. Like, it's very powerful. It's not just about about developers making their own game items and selling them to users then users can own them and resell them on secondary marketplace or potentially use them into other games. It's really like, it is my creation, and my creation, I have this psychological attachment. It has a value, intrinsically a value because I made it, and also a value because potentially it can be reused in games. It has a utility value and more use case. And we've had with Sandbox on mobile over 40 million players who made 70 million creation. It was amazing. Like, they literally spent hours or days creating content, and there was literally no way for them to monetize this time and this creation in the platforms the game was, like the Apple Store and the Google Play Store back then. So now that anything they can create, they can actually sell them through NFTs and ERC level 55 standards on the marketplace is very powerful.
So Sebastien, basically for you, it was like you were seeing a use case in your application, which you more or less could not solve with existing technology, and then like somehow came across NFT and was saying, okay, this NFTs or the concept of NFTs offers exactly what I'm needing to be able to service my users what I want to service them. Is that correct?
I think it's a good summary. We've seen competitors like Minecraft or Roblox trying to offer still some monetization scheme, but it's way too centralized. Like, they as the central authority define like what is going to be the revenue share you get, how you monetize, what you can do and cannot do, such as like you cannot take out your creation outside of the platform, transfer it to another user, sell it on other marketplace, etc. So it's not like free market. Those platforms have been acting as like centralized walled garden, trying by any way to control and limit their user into the platform, which we find is very restrictive, and where the disruption comes in with Sandbox and NFTs.
Thank you very much. And I would like to go to Carolin, because I think you have a very interesting concept going on, which basically, you know, like when I first entered blockchain, it was all about people who were deep in technology or they were trading. And even if you wanted to, like, I can remember, like, it was like 15 months ago, if you want to interact or do something in the NFT space, you had to have like a deep understanding about code and stuff, like people like Andreas only had access to it. But I'm thinking like what I was seeing like with Mintbase is like you guys are really like opening up this topic of NFT to a much broader vision. Can you give us a little bit of an introduction how you're doing it? Because I think you're doing it very different than a lot of other ones.
Yeah, definitely. So at Mintbase, we created this platform to really allow anyone to create NFTs. And what we really want is that those NFTs are not just collectibles or not just like something that sits on my wallet, but we want those NFTs to be useful. So we really want maybe like the ticket like is an NFT and it gives you voting rights at the conference, or maybe the NFT will make your character run faster in the Sandbox game or somewhere. So we really like focused on the utility of those NFTs, and we are trying to bridge the gap like normal, like mass user adoption, and we're trying to constantly onboard people who are not familiar with crypto. So we just launched our credit card integration. So basically, people can now buy and sell NFTs in over 134 different currencies. So this is like really huge for us as well, and this is why I see a lot of adoption happening.
Sorry if I'm interrupting you, but how do you see it? Because I think you very quick realized like NFTs is something like which is a great potential, and what you are doing here is like very unique because, as you said, you're already looking how to implement it and make it as easy as possible for average users. So why did your company choose this direction? Is it because we were seeing all the traditional crypto blockchain things were too nerdy or too non-focused on easy access?
Well, the original like thought of Mintbase was to enable anyone to create value. Like we now live in this current financial system where the banks tell us, okay, you can only work together with Stripe or with Plaid or something. And blockchain is really like incredible because anyone can really like create value and sell NFTs. And NFTs, like why did we choose not to go into like the gaming and more into like ticketing and art and stuff? It's basically, we didn't choose that. It's our users who came to us and they asked us, hey, can you please build like ticketing for us? Can you do this? Can you do that? So it's really like community driven, our platform. So yeah, we didn't choose it. It was like more like a pull. Okay.
No, I really enjoyed it. And now we are coming to Devin from OpenSea. And Devin, I think like I came across OpenSea like, was it like in the end of last year, something like this? And I even shoot you an email, or no, I was like sending you a Telegram message because when I saw what you guys are doing, I was like, they are figuring it out. And like I think it was even in the early days where I was thinking, okay, you guys were going a complete different route, doing something in the blockchain space without the typical ICO rush, because we have seen similar projects which are wanting to do what you're doing. And how did you guys came across this topic, and how was the ride so far? Because I'm thinking like, for me, like OpenSea is kind of this umbrella on top where everything somehow feeds into, if I'm formulating it correct.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me on the.
And sorry, because I know for you it's like very early in the night.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, it's a little bit early over here, but yeah. Thanks so much for having me on the panel. It's really nice to be here. Yeah, I guess a little bit of kind of history and why we started OpenSea. I think, you know, my co-founder and I were pretty excited about some of the more non-financial use cases for blockchains. So CryptoKitties was super fun and interesting, and I think we kind of just followed what we thought was like, you know, kind of weird and wacky at the time. You know, it was kind of strange that people were buying and selling these digital cats for so much money. And so we were just like, okay, maybe we could build something that would be useful if more people started building these assets. And I think, you know, when it started out, no one actually, or I think we're still kind of figuring out what really works with these new types of assets. I think it's kind of an iterative process of people running experiments, seeing what resonates with people, and then, you know, iterating and running more experiments. But at the time, it was even more uncertain. No one, you know, really knew the answer, and so I think we kind of built OpenSea as more of a generic platform that would be useful for all of those experiments that people were running. So now I guess
what areas do you see at the moment? Like we know, like we have been talking now a lot about gaming. So what other areas do you see on your platform are having like traction?
Yeah, so I think gaming is definitely probably the biggest at the moment. So virtual worlds like the Sandbox are sort of providing this kind of foundational layer where you can have true ownership of land and true ownership of items, and then things can kind of be built on top of that. So I think it's early days, but really exciting for those sorts of gaming related use cases. Trading card games is another game use case that we're seeing a lot of activity in. So games where, you know, if you think back to Magic the Gathering, there was the gameplay around Magic, but there was also the whole economy around Magic the Gathering with, you know, dozens of different sites where you could trade your Magic cards. And then the other two categories that I think are particularly interesting at the moment are digital art. So obviously Mintbase is very involved in that, and it's basically just, you know, people who are creators putting their art out there, seeing who will follow them and purchase them. But we're definitely seeing lots of excitement around that. Both original creators going and creating their own art, and then also going through platforms as well.
Yeah.
And then the last one is these sort of naming service type projects. So Ethereum name service and Unstoppable Domains are both working on kind of more human readable ways to access your account on Ethereum, or to host a website using a decentralized domain name versus just a .com name. So that's another area that I'm particularly excited about.
So basically, I think you really quite well summarized up what's going on. So if I want to throw the topic back into the panel, so are there any other use cases you guys are seeing popping up beside this? And I think like Mintbase from Carolin, you have like spoken about ticketing and stuff like this, and this is where I personally see also to like a big opportunity. So is it something which is like only ticketing, or could it be like, even as you said, like I don't know, like even like your driving license be an NFT which is minted, but would be not through Mintbase, but I think this concept of like universities minting certificates or something like this. So did you guys had discussions with someone in that area, or experimented around that?
Definitely, but when we come to this area like certificates, and it's like very a very regulatory like area. So we are discussing with some people, but right now we see more use cases in like ticketing, art, photography, and I have a friend who now she's a Reiki healer, and she wants to offer distance healing. Like so you can buy an NFT on our platform, and then you get like a distance Reiki treatment. So that's really cool. We are also looking to create sound NFTs, so that a person who buys the sound NFT will be able to download the sound file. So this is the direction we are heading. So we are more like focused on like immediate use cases.
So basically, when you're talking about sound NFTs, that sounds for me like you're opening like an extremely large market, because as we have seen in like as Devin spoke as well, like we have seen in the digital art space where people sell digital art, and it's at the moment it's like, for me myself, I'm into new media art since a very long time, and I was realizing is like, well, the medium how art is transported at the moment through NFTs is still very limited. So something like video and sound is definitely like a very large opportunity. So how is it like for you guys there? Do you have any specific projects going on, or you just say we provide the standard and see from where we are going here?
Yes, we have users who like specifically request this. Like they come to us and they say, hey, it would be really cool if you would offer this feature and this feature. And we are a team of two, so we cannot like build this within like 2 days or something. But we're definitely community driven, and we have like people asking for that. So that's really cool. And we like really see the NFT of the future almost like a membership. Like, for example, now with Netflix, right? You have the NFT, and this like gives you access to watch those kind of movies, or maybe Spotify. Like this is like an area that's going to be super interesting and fascinating. And now with like a fiat, like anyone can buy it. So
this is exactly as well what I've seen. Like when I first heard about NFTs and I talked about more online oriented use cases, I was thinking like all the SaaS business, like software as a service business, they could all run on systems like NFTs. It's a little bit complicated and just explain it short, but it follows the very same concept. And there's one question for me, which I'm coming across just recently. And for me, it was like, I don't know, maybe I'm too much of a Ethereum fanboy. But why is the topic of NFTs so strong on Ethereum platform? Like, Sebastien, did you guys made a specific decision to use Ethereum as a platform, or are you saying, okay, we started here and we're also going to look into other opportunities and other blockchains which are technically allowing to issue NFTs?
All right, there's two questions in here. So the first one is, I think historically, NFTs are born on the Ethereum blockchain. It came with CryptoPunk, then afterwards CryptoKitties at the end of 2017 with the ERC 721 standard. And now it's enlarging with the new ERC 1155 standard, which we contributed to with Engine and Horizon game, which is even better adapted for games with millions of items rather than just one single unique item every time. So that's this historical reason that Ethereum as a blockchain allows smart contract and has structured data for NFTs, and NFTs then took as a form of expression, as a form of communication, as a proof of digital ownership, which can then be used into, like Carolin said, for music, for ticketing, for potentially even digital passport, digital identity, because every NFT is a unique token that carries a metadata and then can be trusted across different applications. And I will talk a little bit more later after how even we are seeing new layer of this permissionless use of NFTs with games building on NFTs from other games, etc. Now, why at Sandbox we built on the Sandbox blockchain, on the Ethereum blockchain, is also because historically, as a game studio and also as a blockchain company, you are building on the technologies that your engineering team is the most familiar with. And our lead blockchain architect, Ronan Sanford, started back in 2015 or 16. He's well known among the community of Ethereum developers. He contributed to several standards there. And essentially, Ethereum back then was the main platform with the largest developer ecosystem and support for building dApps. So because it takes time to create good games, great games, it's not just a matter of days or weeks, it's literally a matter of months and years. We are now on Ethereum blockchain because it's been 2 years we started building Sandbox. We are about to launch a public beta by the end of this year. And we've grown our team and our skill in the technologies that we're the more knowledgeable into, which was and is Ethereum at the moment. Doesn't mean that new blockchain will not emerge. There's a lot of interesting value proposition on the market now with Flow, with Zaya, with Cartesi, etc. Yeah. And I do think that it's just like phases. So we are going to see more and more dApps build on those eventually, but it will take a few months before those dApps comes to market and show us like good use case from a user-facing point of view. But it's quite amazing also because I'm also the president of the Blockchain Game Alliance. I get to see a lot of projects involved into gaming and blockchain, and a lot is happening outside of Ethereum as well, and it's quite exciting.
Yeah, I was shortly involved a little bit in the EOS community where they're trying to establish a standard on digital items, but somehow it seemed to were falling apart because of technical issues. Andreas, I would like to continue with you because all the companies we now have talking about are like, it's experimental, it's startups, it's creative people we are trying out. But I think the use case you are involved is basically, to be honest, if you look in the terms of how many Ether addresses are owning an NFT in the use case you host, they are basically the top leaders, despite there's not, so how do you know, like, because I see the project you involved like as a reference project. So it's a real company, which is very traditional. How do you make them, or how did that idea come to use NFTs?
Yeah, so using NFTs was very obvious when we saw what's happening with CryptoKitties. It was a very big peak of attention, and everybody was thinking of, okay, how can we leverage this? And we quickly identified that this whole NFT as a standard thing can really lift off and become its own ecosystem, and we should If there is something that can be built upon that, we should definitely do that. I wanted to add something also to your previous question,
Sorry,
how
feel free.
NFTs are being applied to in other areas. I think ticketing is right now also very much taking off. I see a lot of projects here. Even the city of Vienna did a project also together with Christian Baumann and Capacity, where we built a culture token. It's a voucher system for tickets that you can then use to get access to certain cultural institutions. And you see that even very traditional players or players who want to get on with the technology and want to show that they are on top of the field, they want to also get into this. So the point that you were making before about such a large number of users that we onboarded to the blockchain ecosystem, so that you can see that a bit critical, of course, because not everybody involved, not everybody who bought a crypto stamp actually did on-chain transaction. In fact, it was a very small minority who did that, and I think those were the hardcore fans and the people who really got the concept. But on the other hand, we made a lot of people familiar with the topic of crypto in general, and that was very interesting. So we saw a large range of questions that people had. Let's say, what is crypto? How do I use a wallet? What is like Ether or what is Bitcoin? And what can I do with this stuff? And so we educated a lot of people. But it also showed me that we are still in a phase where certain tasks are just very hard, especially when you look at the onboarding scenario for users, what you have to do. And I talked to a lot of people about that problem. I think this is right now one of the major challenges that we see in onboarding new users. What needs to be done here? Just 12-word backups and explaining all these things and so on. That we have to find a better story here for sure.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to talk with sorry, I forgot the name, with Devin from OpenSea, because what Andreas was meaning, like user experience, user interfaces, and what I'm seeing at the moment at OpenSea, I call it's the platform itself is very user-friendly and user experience oriented, despite you still need to have this typical decentralized wallet login. So how is your company positioned it there? So is it like, okay, at the moment, we just serve like those people who are familiar with the technology, or you guys are thinking, okay, can we build there a different ecosystem? Do we build there something different? So what's your position on this at the moment?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think it's kind of the question that every company faces in the blockchain space is kind of how much do you build yourself versus how much do you kind of wait for the rest of the ecosystem to mature. So to make it more concrete, you can go and kind of build a new wallet if you're not satisfied with kind of the current wallet offering. So if you look 2 years ago, really the main wallet on the market was MetaMask, and MetaMask is obviously a great wallet. At the time, it was somewhat difficult for users to onboard onto it. But that being said, if you kind of waited till now, you would have gotten new wallet experiences for free, and you kind of wouldn't have to build them yourself. So I think some of the companies that built everything themselves, there could have maybe just waited. So we're kind of taking the approach of waiting and sort of building what we're really good at, which is building marketplaces, while the rest of the ecosystem works on all the different pieces. So the different pieces that people are working on are.
Question. Like you were mentioning, you're building marketplaces, and I know like Animoca is also to invested in your company, if I have it correct. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I was seeing recently like Animoca that they bought like Quid, which is basically for me when I was seeing. So I know Quid and I know OpenSea, and for me they are very similar. So Quid was like a complete centralized solution versus you a complete decentralized solution. Is this something like you are in exchange with those guys and try to figure out to find a middle way? Because for me, like what you are doing is basically in crypto terms a DEX, and you are not the Binance basically. And if you look in traditional crypto space where trading is one of the main things, and onboarding is done by users, and my cousins are trading, they don't have any MetaMask or anything. They just go to the exchange, put in their money, and they trade on the exchange. In the worst case, they send from one exchange to another one, but they not really have themselves an Ether address to do that. They do it like exchange to exchange, which is for people involved, like they say, don't do that, but they do it because they don't know it otherwise better. So do you see there any synergies, or are you in exchange with them?
Yeah, we definitely are. We frequently talk to Animoca. They've been great partners on all the projects that we've worked on. So from the Sandbox to Formula One, and we've also recently been discussing the Quid acquisition, which is super exciting. I think to answer your question around the exchange stuff, I think there's a really interesting open question around, will decentralized exchanges be the main place that people trade NFTs, or will there be sort of what we saw with tokens, where there's this kind of ecosystem of centralized exchanges? I think the jury's still out. I mean, one kind of interesting thing to think about is the fact that there wasn't really any viable decentralized exchange technology when we saw the kind of cryptocurrency and ICO wave. Now it's still in the early stages, but there is somewhat more viable decentralized exchange tech out there, and we're kind of working to get it to the point where it's as like where the user experience is similar.
So basically, your opinion is if there would have been Uniswap before Binance, Uniswap would have won, something like this.
Not necessarily. I think like fungible token trading is a very different animal. So I'm not making that claim. But I think if you look at kind of what are the characteristics that are required for non-fungible tokens, they're pretty different than what's required for currencies. And maybe there's, who knows? I actually think that, it remains to be seen, because there's a lot of things going against decentralized exchanges, such as network throughput, but there's also things that make centralized exchanges tricky as well. So, for example, having to transfer your asset into a centralized exchange, if you're transferring a bunch of different NFTs, that's actually oftentimes a more friction-rich experience than just connecting your wallet to a DEX and saying go for it. So I think there's trade-offs.
I think that's also a different motivation involved if someone is buying an NFT versus someone is going to an exchange and want to trade money. Like the motivation behind it. Because I know it, like a friend of mine, he really likes like a digital artist, and he basically forced himself to understand how to board on to buy artworks from him online, because he was now releasing artworks online in a digital form on OpenSea. To get this, it was very interesting to see what the motivations are where people are moving in. And I would like to talk
quickly, maybe on behalf of Animoca brands, to give a better description on what is Quid and what is the intention behind Quid, because you compared it to OpenSea, but I do believe those are quite different animals, I would say. Like Quid is a mobile application, which is like an app where you can collect. So you have digital collectible coming from different IPs and brands. They have like something like 300 different IPs coming from Marvel, Disney, etc. So, and you buy those characters. You can view them in 3D on your mobile. You can complete like collections, sort of like digital paninis, and you can trade with other users and exchange, but in a centralized manner with no way of selling them, etc. Now, what is quite important is that there is already a huge existing user base on this app that is used for years to collect these things, and they didn't necessarily look into how can I resell it, trade it outside, etc. And bringing blockchain technology behind is opening potentially a greater adoption of the technology and a great use case. This is
so basically you see it there's everyone is locked in you see it like everyone is locked in the ecosystem, and now through technologies they're going and open, and then it can spill over into other stuff.
I think it's the intention, but like with the content that is available, it's quite different. on one case, this is like IP licensed digital content within a mobile platform. So working specifically in, if you're familiar with how IP license work, usually like you define the terms of like geography and platforms. Those are some of the key components of any licensing contract. So the App Store and the Google Play Store is a very well-defined platform. And the content doesn't go outside of it. On OpenSea, I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're dealing directly in a B2B manner with game developers and other token issuers who are creating content either by themselves and then allowing to trade on OpenSea, or creating their content directly on OpenSea as a primary marketplace. But you're not acting as like an IP licensor where OpenSea directly is going to license to brands to make their own content and sell it. So I think that's the difference between this marketplace and being really like a content creator and provider.
Okay, thank you very much for the explanation. Carolin, you were giving us already like some very interesting different other use cases for NFT. So, and as I figured out, like it seems like you are a company which is very listening to the users. So what was the most craziest request? And I'm assuming like the same question as well then to Devin, of NFTs you got, or people, you know, I experienced it myself. Sometimes people come across with crazy ideas. So do you have anything, a story to share about that?
Let me think. A crazy request from a user. Okay. I mean, up until now, everything is pretty okay. Of course, we have to take down like some markets which are, you know, displaying naked body parts. So that's, considered maybe as crazy. But in general, like there has been no exceptional request. I can't remember something extraordinary. Maybe OpenSea or Sandbox.
Devin, did you came across some projects? I think for you cannot control it, because as far as I know it, everything is basically accessible through OpenSea somehow in one form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there have been some crazy ones. My mind is blanking at the moment. A couple interesting things that have happened over the last year. One, we've definitely seen our first kind of fraudulent NFTs. So if you think about kind of now that there's all these minting platforms, Mintbase, Rarible, our minting tool as well. You know, anyone can kind of upload an image and put metadata associated with it. So you could take an existing NFT and make a fraudulent NFT. So something that looks exactly like one of the other ones and then try to sell it. So we kind of have some systems in place now that make it harder for people to actually get away with that. But we have seen a good number of instances of that. The other kind of interesting ones that we've seen recently, I would say, advertisement NFTs. So people basically selling ad space on their website as a non-fungible token. So you buy the token and then you get the rights to put, you know, your banner on one of these websites. And some of the websites are pretty cool. They do it in a really nice way. We've also seen like subscription NFTs where you buy the NFT and you kind of get a subscription to a monthly package of other NFTs, which is pretty cool. Lots of really interesting games out there that are kind of you know, creative. So there's like Flower Patch, which is like you're growing. It's kind of like a Farmville type game. There's Zed Run, which is like horse racing. So there's all sorts of like you know, indie games that are doing stuff.
I think Zed Run is a very good example. I saw the video they produced first, and it was like extremely promising. And I was thinking, so they figured it out, and like that will hit the bomb. And now it's basically you're racing pixels, and it's like the mechanics behind it is still not at the level it should be. But when I was seeing the concept, I was thinking, oh my God, like if they do this right, this is getting crazy. And it's like it's opening a whole new universe. But yeah, it's I think for me, it would be like really funny to see like I would like to spend really like only like days to figure out what are people trying to do there in new ways. because it was mentioned this term like fake NFTs. I mean, it's very funny. So we're very, very young in that space, and we already need to talk about fake NFTs in a trusted environment where we're saying like NFTs are very secure. So Andreas, I think that's a topic I think we have discussed. It was as you had this experience as well that people were trying to like fake the crypto step. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. So when we started the project, we immediately saw somebody minting their own smart contracts that were completely unrelated, and they completely copied over all the data that we put in there. But I mean, from let's say an authenticity perspective, there is one source of truth that actually works relatively well, that is Ethereum name system. So if you have an NFT that doesn't have an appropriate ENS record associated with it, then you should be very suspicious. And that's why we use like cryptostamp.eth for this project, and some other ENS names as well, like 21hats.eth. I recently, it's in the pipeline of being launched. Yeah, please, if you are concerned about authenticity of your NFTs, please try to figure out what are the ENS records for it, because there you usually find something interesting. But it's not, I mean, the physical world is not free of fakes. I mean, if you think of any branded items, they are certainly faked. But I think NFTs can give you some really good tools to make the job even harder for people to fake it.
Yeah,
but
Sebastien,
if I may on this topic, I think like because NFTs carry a value, and this value comes from either their scarcity or their utility, it's quite natural to see like appearing fakes, copies, or people trying to take away the value or part of this value somehow. It's a great feature from the blockchain that we can track the authenticity directly through the address of like from where it was minted, wallet address, etc. But it doesn't mean, to your point, that there cannot be a secondary market where people would accept and value copies of an NFTs. Like you said, like even if something like if a piece of art, like the real one, I can prove it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and it's unique, etc. But still, if I want it and I'm ready to pay $10 or $100 for the copy, and it makes me proud to own that copy, like or own like the copy of this Louis Vuitton bag that looks like real and potentially can be used or accepted by some game developers, even if it's not from the true source. Like, who can prevent you to do that in the end? As long as there's like a buyer, or as long as there's someone that is ready to give or grant value to a token, whatever, if it's a copy or not, I think it's opening an immense world behind, and it can be opportunity. It can be also questioning like, how do I protect the value, and where is this value sentiment?
I think
like one point what I would like to throw in the room is a little bit of an extension of NFT. So where I see like everything coming together is exactly like this. I call them kind of metaverses. You know, like if you talk about Decentraland, crypto voxels, Sandbox, which you involved, Summum space. So do you guys see that they are a catalyst for this whole NFT space, or they were a catalyst because, you know, people were selling virtual land? It sounds always so crazy. So virtual properties and NFTs played a big role into that, like for you as well, like Sebastien. So do you think like that?
It's true, but I think we are still in a pioneer industry, and we don't know for sure from which app, from which application of NFTs will like this massive success kickstart. Like when CryptoKitties appear, nobody would think that like digital cats with unique traits will become such a thing and boom out. And what I'm waiting for is that moment in the industry where we have these new Angry Birds, this new Candy Crush or Temple Run, to compare it to what happened in the mobile game industry around 2007 and 2008, where it really propelled like this exponential growth curve of people buying the device and starting to play on the device.
So basically, you're waiting for this catalyst event.
Yeah, exactly. And there's games, there's startups that are coming to market this year, including Sandbox, that potentially could be that catalyst. But who knows? Like at the end, these are the users who are going to judge and decide what they want to be so enthusiastic about and ready to jump in for.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree with you, and I think like because I know you're like in close contact as well, like with CryptoVoxes, for example, and how do you see are these metaverses or are these different platforms are working together? Because what I see in the NFT art space, it's a competition. So there's like super against original known variables. So they are a little bit fighting for the same customers versus what I'm seeing like in the metaverse space. It seems like more collaborated oriented. Is that correct?
I think so as well. Typically, we are all members of the Blockchain Game Alliance, Somnium Space, CryptoVoxel. Yeah. We are often talking together at conference. We're even offering our tool VoxEdit for creating voxel model and potentially using them across all the platform. I think the metaverse is a concept that by itself carries the idea that there will be many virtual worlds and platform behind that compose it. It's not just one metaverse and one big winner company, whether it's on the blockchain, decentralized, or it's centralized with Fortnite, with Second Life, or even the Oculus Quest Rift virtual world, etc. But it's going to be a series of virtual worlds that potentially can be interconnected through the use of NFTs. And the beauty of CryptoVoxel is that it has found its niche already with artists, and it has this organic growth and adoption. So the team, a small team, but very reactive to the demand of their users, it really builds what the user wants, and it grows like this. It's like similar aspect, which I really find amazing on both.
It's a really interesting concept. How for me personally,
behind.
Exactly. For me, it's like what I'm liking, and I think this concept where success is coming is exactly like this: that you work everyone should work together instead of against each other, because as you said, like I have completely the same feeling. Like I'm more a believer of like there will be specialized services, and it is not the winner takes it all. So maybe Facebook will come out with something like this, and I think they are planning since years something in that environment, but so far I haven't seen anything useful. And as you mentioned as well with CryptoVox, it's like literally Ben lives I think on New Zealand time, so in the morning he logs in and there's like a list of requests from people, and basically then he's like, okay, today I'm doing this. It's like very like user driven development, and it's very interesting concept for me. I like it how it is structured in a way, how he's doing things. It has its downsides as well, definitely, because how to explain it, there are some major bugs sometimes. But it's really very interesting how this is driven. So, like, how do you see it like further as well? Like, if we talk about this topic, so do you see in a way, like real use cases? We talk a lot about like digital art. Ticketing is also the virtual. So, but what would be other use cases? Like, could it be that I'm buying in 2025 my new BMW and I'm getting an NFT token associated with it? So what do you guys think about it?
Yeah, well,
Definitely.
I think we're really only seeing the start of the whole development. So what's definitely going to happen is that NFTs have a more life cycle oriented, let's say, experience, that you start off with a product, you use the product, and you keep it maybe as a memory. That's something that is relatively straightforward to implement. And the other thing that's kind of tying into the discussion of how platforms are competing with each other is I think that NFTs themselves will have more metadata associated in the near future where this metadata can then be extracted and be taken in by the engines, by the virtual worlds, how you can combine them together. And I think that also has a lot of utility. Think about the avatar that you can take from one world to another world, where like a profile picture, when you set up a picture on a website, you don't have to redraw the whole thing again. You can just upload your existing picture. In the same style, I think you will be able to take your NFTs with you through the different virtual worlds. I think that's definitely going to happen.
Carolin, you wanted to talk as well about that, I'm thinking.
Definitely. So when it comes to use cases, I wanted to mention one more thing. So we talked about like fake NFTs, right? And everyone like is worried about buying a fake NFT. So identity is really the solution to this. Like we need to inform the buyers that like we really need informed buyers that they only buy NFTs from, I don't know, people who have a $3 account or something like that. So that's also really important. Like NFTs should also mean something. It should unlock a function. And we are just touching base. Like we are right at the beginning of what is possible. Like ticketing is a beautiful use case for us, for example, because it beautifully displays that you can buy a ticket. The ticket is more than just a collectible or just like a QR code. Like you get so much more with it. So we are right at the beginning. You could literally like build Airbnb and just tokenize everything. Like there's so many opportunities and yeah, so much to come. It's such an exciting area to be in, and also like working together with other platforms like OpenSea and all the other players in there. It's really like fruitful, and I think like everyone has their own specific niche. Like Mintbase, for example, is at the beginning, at the creation of NFTs. You make it really easy for people to tokenize things. Then maybe people go to OpenSea, they resell it, they're really good with their markets, and maybe we exhibit the NFT in our CryptoVoxes gallery. So this is really exciting.
Okay, so one question.
I think we are. It's really like what we are seeing right now. We are still pioneer in the space, and we only see the base layer of what NFTs can do at the dApps level, like whether they are game items inside a game platform or they are used like Carolin just described. But what I start to find amazing is how like DAO and other games offer a meta gameplay, not only using their own NFTs or token, but actually leveraging the existing NFTs of other games. Like maybe you've heard about this meta boss game where actually you play based on your actual ownership. So it reads your wallet, it checks which NFT you own on different platform, game services like ZNS, Ethereum name service, Sandbox, CryptoKitties, etc. It builds you a certain skill point base, and then you use it to play on their platform. So I really enjoy that. This kind of like project pushing the barrier, showing that this is just the initial layer for more creativity, more permissionless creation.
So basically what you're talking is show me your NFTs and I tell you who you are.
It can be, not necessarily tie your identity to what you own, but I like leveraging the idea of like what you own can enable you some gameplay mechanics. And
it's really interesting what you're mentioning, because you know there are two concepts. So there are those people who are putting all the different NFTs on different addresses, and then are those who are putting it all in one contract. And it's like I know some guys, and it's like, guys, you have like, why do you do this? No, I'm proud to have it and I want to show it off. You know, like there's as you say, there's already like, I mean, we all know like for example, recently like one guy like his name is Whale Shark appeared in the scene. I think everyone in this room here knows him, and he just like, it was like crazy, and he has everything in one address, and you're going there and saying, oh my god, it's basically he curated. So I find it very interesting. So basically, as the buyer becomes also the curator of kind of a display room, let's say it this way.
I think we have some very interesting things to reveal in that regard as well, just for displaying collections. Not spoiling too much yet.
Well, in 20 minutes or what?
No. In 5 weeks or so.
I can imagine. No, one question for me is like as well. So would we see in the future, like 2030, we bought the plane and the plane ticket is issued as an NFT? Is that a potential future?
Definitely. I think so. It's more secure. Like, so we have a redeemer. We built a redeemer, and you like check in by doing a Face ID, for example, on Mintbase. So it's safer than right now that you just scan a QR code and then you go to airport check-in. It's really not safe at all. So I think NFTs can really like be used for airline tickets and much more.
Yeah, for me, it's like to be honest, for me, I see like we had digitalization, and then I call something which is tokenization, and I'm like this whole NFT space is really like a very component. Like, to be honest, like I'm more excited about this topic now than I was about 2 years ago about all this traditional crypto blockchain things, to be honest, because I don't know, maybe it's because I'm more like a creative oriented person, or because I'm not like a programmer, so I didn't find the other stuff so interesting, but I always found the concept interesting behind it. And now it's like basically, okay, all these things I was like having in mind and talking are finally happening. So it's like very great to see things like this, definitely. Devin from OpenSea, like where do you guys see your future? Like you will become like the eBay of digital items, or what's your greater goal in that game?
Yeah, I think, well, you know, I definitely think there will be lots of different marketplaces for non-fungible tokens. You know, there'll be marketplaces that live inside of the game. There'll be third-party marketplaces that serve specific use cases. But I do think there's also a lot of value in kind of a generic marketplace that spans across lots of different asset classes, and, you know, has this sort of passionate group of users who get value from the trading interface that it provides. So that's kind of I mean, it's really hard to say exactly what direction we'll go in, but that's kind of direction we've taken at the moment, is providing that core user base with the set of like trading features that they would want from a really powerful like trading platform. So right now it's still really basic, but we're going to be launching a lot of new features over the coming months to make the experience of kind of figuring out what price to set for a particular item, like finding the right price for a particular item. What?
Something like a price discovery tool, or?
So like better charts, graphs, filters, all of that type of stuff that you can imagine would be pretty useful. So that's kind of the direction we see it going.
Yeah, how do you see it as well? Like for me, the question is, so how you think you are? Are you more like the eBay, or are you more like the Shopify in the mid to long term?
Yeah, I think we're kind of in the middle right now, and I would say in the short run, like I think being an eBay kind of works well because you know, it helps these kind of small projects get off the ground. In the long run, maybe helping projects build more sort of customizable marketplaces. That's something that we do a bit of now, but yeah, I don't know the answer. We're kind of in between. And we'll kind of move.
If I may, I think Devin is a little bit too shy about like the importance of OpenSea in the ecosystem. Like it's more than just a marketplace or a system for developer. It's actually almost like a discovery destination. Like I would call it like the new kind of app stores where you also discover and want to play games by checking the items first and the value of those items. And so they have this capacity to drive an audience to many new dApps, which I find quite amazing as well, and part of this new decentralization.
True.
Okay, not a problem. I was waiting for the timer, but I didn't saw it. Okay, sorry. Like we're running over time, and the instruction was a timer is running. So as we started late, I didn't see the timer. So like very like short, one word from each one, or 3 words for each one. Did they cut it already?
One word: moon.
Moon.
That's my word.
Okay.
Moon.
Sebastian?
Yes, Moon also, and you'll find something announced today about it.
Okay. Carolin?
Maybe a rocket.
Okay. And Devin?
I'll go with Moon too.
Okay,
All right.
perfect. So I go with rocket because to fly to the moon we need a rocket. And maybe the rocket is NFTs. Let's say it this way. Okay.
True.
Thank you
And
very
also
much,
use some
guys.
shovels, of course.
Yes,
Shovels.
and
Thank you, everyone.
I
Thank
hope
you.
we will have a chance to see us in person sooner than later.